So this is lesson 76, B as in boy, in Algebra 2, and we are ready to be in section 76B, and it's called negative vectors. Alright, if you remember in lesson 72, we found that there's only one way to label a vector or a point using rectangular coordinates. Alright, so if you remember, this would be whoops, let's find a color here that you can actually see. And make the pen a little thicker, that might help. Alright, 8.66 right plus 5u. Okay, remember we went over to the right and it made it a positive, and then we went up, which also made it a positive. And that showed us where that point was right there. Alright, when you're using polar coordinates, oh golly, there's 4 ways of labeling that same point. So I'm going to show you all 4 ways. Okay, the first way, again, make my pen a little bit thicker even more. First way is we take the magnitude at the angle. Okay, we can also take the magnitude at this angle going this way instead, so that would be negative 330 degrees. So there's 2 ways to name this point right there. Alright, there's also 2 more ways to label or to name this point, and so we'll see if we can explain this without it being too difficult. What is going on here? Alright, stop. Okay, I guess it's just going to be weird. Alright, there we go. Alright, so, sorry I'm kind of wasting your time here, aren't I? We can, if we start here and go this way to 210 degrees, and we have a line that is the same magnitude. It's 10 here and it's 10 here, but it's in the opposite direction. We could label this here as the opposite of this 10, which is at 210 degrees. So I could label this as negative 10. So what that means is I start here, I go 210 degrees, draw my line that's 10 long, take the opposite, which means I swing it across my origin right here. So this negative means it's the opposite direction of what I'm showing. So 210 degrees, 10 long, then take the opposite of this 10, which means I go this way. Alright, I know, it's silly, isn't it? It gets worse. Alright, so I've got that, and so that was what? Negative 10 at 210 degrees. Alright, now the other thing I run into is, let's go to this 10 here again. What if I went this way? So then it's not 210 degrees, it's negative 150 degrees this way. And I still have the opposite of 10. So 4 ways of writing how to get to this point using the polar form. And that's pretty much what that part of the lesson is. The next one has some adding of vectors, so we'll do that, and then we will be done with this lesson and you can go home. Okay, so they're asking us to add vectors. Let me go to a small pen here, and we have negative 4 at negative 20 plus 5 at 135 degrees. They want us to add those. So this right here is my 4 at negative 20, and this over here is my 5 at 135. So it's 5 long and it's at 135. Easy. This over here is a little bit trickier because we go negative 20, 4 long, and then go the opposite direction because of this negative to find out where my point actually is. So my point is actually here. So this is my x, which is going to be negative because I'm going this way, and this is my y, which is going to be positive. And over here in this one, my d is going to be negative because I'm going this way, and my c is going to be positive. Okay, that's just important to remember what you're doing there. Alright, so in order to write this, or in order to add these, I've got to switch them to rectangular. I can't add them when they're in polar. I can add them when they're in rectangular. So I've got to switch both of these to rectangular. So let's do that. Let's take this right here, and I have to find a and b, don't I? And if you remember right, to find a and b, you use sine and cosine. So the b portion is the x, so we use cosine. So remember, it's the hypotenuse times the cosine of the angle will give me my b. So b equals 4 cosine of 20, which equals 3.7, I'm just going to round. Okay, a then equals 4 sine of 20 because this is my a is actually my y, and y is the hypotenuse times the sine of the angle, and 4 sine of 20 is 1.38. Alright, let's look at this one over here now. Same thing. I'm going to find d, and d is going to be 5 cosine of 45, which equals 3.54. And my c is my y, and it's going to be 5 sine of 45, and that gives me 3.54. Same thing, which I would expect with a 45-degree angle. Alright, so now I have the lengths of A, B, C, and D. Alright, so let's look at the left-hand side here and write that point right there. And I'm going to write it as negative 3.76 r because I went to the left, so my x is negative, plus 1.38 u since I went up. Okay, now let's look at these over here. We went d negative direction, so my d is going to be negative 3.54 r plus, since I went a positive direction for c, 3.54 u. So I'm going to add this and that together. So I don't need my graph, I don't need really, I need some of this. Okay, I need my two answers. There. So I'm going to write it as 3.76 r. I'm just writing it a little nicer here for me. And negative 3.54 r. That doesn't look so nice. Now I'm going to add 10, carry the 1, 13, carry the 1, 7, negative r, plus 12, carry the 1, 9, 4. So that's what my answer is. 7.3, or negative 7.3 right, and 4.92 up, and that would be the sum of the point here and the point there. So these are, gosh, they take long enough to do. I'm not going to do another one. That's the only example really they give you in the book. But if you need to, I definitely would go back and watch this again, because there's a lot going on here. So just remember to write down how to do these, because you'll see them again on a test. So anyway, that's lesson number 76.